If you were like the biggest superstar on the planet, how would you signal the end of your era? I mean, would you just fade away quietly into some heavily guarded estate or
Or would you stage your own public funeral and literally force everyone to watch?
right, because that is the ultimate question of legacy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when someone reaches that terrifying, absolute pinnacle of cultural saturation, where, their face is just woven into the fabric of everyday life,
Mhm.
they can't just stop.
No, they really can't.
They have to author that final chapter themselves. Because if they don't, the public is going to author it for them.
Which is exactly the tension we are trying to decode in today's deep dive. So welcome, everyone. I'm your host, and I'm sitting here with our expert today. And to all of you listening right now, we have an incredible stack of sources in front of us.
A really heavy stack.
Yeah, primarily the 2026 deep dive files. And these files, they contain this rigorous, like frame-by-frame analysis of Taylor Swift's explosive new visual project, Elizabeth Taylor, alongside the official lyrics.
And full disclosure here, looking at this exact same evidence, we have come to two wildly different conclusions.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Because I am absolutely convinced she is pulling off the ultimate vanishing act. Like, she is retiring.
And see, looking at those same frames, I just don't see a vanishing act at all.
Really? Not even a little bit.
No, I see a declaration of war. I mean, the visual language she's using is so aggressive, so uncharacteristically raw, that it fundamentally shatters the trajectory we've, come to expect from her.
Well, we are going to lay out both sides for you. Is she walking away from the empire she built, or is she just, like, turning the lights off so she can rearrange the heavy artillery in the dark?
Exactly.
But before we get into this whole clash of interpretations, we need to plant a flag for you. There is a singular, recurring symbol in this project that we both actually agree is the master key to unlocking her true intention.
Right. It's a very specific, historically loaded piece of jewelry. A diamond of unfathomable density.
A massive diamond.
Right. And we want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we pull these visuals apart. Because everything we talk about today,
The historical parallels, the media manipulation, the raw grief.
yeah, it all eventually gets pulled into its gravitational orbit.
It really does. But let's start with the visual that I believe basically shuts the door on her career entirely. This is timestamp 03.41 in the music video.
Oh, that scene, yeah.
Yeah. This is the bedrock of my argument for the grand finale.
I mean, that sequence genuinely forces you to lean closer to the screen. It totally disrupts the glossiness of a typical music video with something just deeply unsettling.
Unsettling is the perfect word, because at 03.41, she isn't just paying, like, a tasteful cinematic homage to a past Hollywood icon. The screen literally splits.
It splits right down the middle.
Right. And on one side, we have real grainy archival footage of Elizabeth Taylor's actual funeral. You see the casket, the mourning crowds, just the absolute finality of it.
And then intercut with that real-world death.
We have Taylor Swift staring dead-eyed into a vanity mirror, physically and aggressively scrubbing the makeup off her own face.
Yeah, the juxtaposition there is wild. Actual mortality paired with the removal of a cosmetic mask.
Yes, and the mechanism here is crucial. She isn't just taking her makeup off at the end of a long day. The lighting is really harsh, almost clinical.
She's rubbing her skin raw.
Exactly, rubbing it raw. It's a ritualistic cleansing. The glitter, the signature red lip, the perfectly constructed Americana image that has driven the pop culture machine for 2 decades. She is washing it down the drain while funeral bells are literally woven into the audio track.
It's heavy.
So heavy. I mean, this is not a love song. It is the Eras Tour's funeral. It's the funeral of her own persona.
Okay, but see, that assumes the removal of the persona equates to the removal of the artist from the public eye.
Well, I'd argue that for a superstar of this magnitude, the persona and the public life are completely inextricably linked. You cannot have one without the other. To kill the image is to kill the career.
That's a bold claim.
But the sources back it up. They point out that this specific exit strategy seems to have been meticulously planned since 2024. She's using Elizabeth Taylor's physical death as a vessel to communicate this brutal truth about modern fame.
Which is?
That a legend can only truly begin its immortal life once the living, breathing person steps off the stage for good. Think of it as, like, a mythological sacrifice.
A sacrifice to the altar of her own legacy.
Exactly that. And the lyrics completely support this concept of an intentional, permanent exit. Like in the second verse, she sings, "If your letters ever said goodbye, I cry eyes Elizabeth Taylor for real."
You know, the phrasing "for real" is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that line.
Oh, it really is.
It creates this stark contrast between performative emotion and, like, visceral reality.
Yeah, let's break down the mechanics of those lyrics for everyone. If your letters ever said goodbye. Historically, she has communicated with her fan base through open letters, secret messages, direct addresses.
Right, the secret sessions, the prologue notes.
Yeah. Yes. So I read this as her drafting the ultimate goodbye letter to the public. And the consequence of that goodbye is crying Elizabeth Taylor for real.
Not the glamorous movie star tear.
No. Not that single tear rolling perfectly down a powdered cheek for the cameras. It's the ugly, behind-closed-doors grief of someone mourning the life they're voluntarily leaving behind. It's the death of the idol, orchestrated by the idol herself.
Okay, I hear you. Your interpretation of 03.41 as a literal funeral for her career is compelling, especially with those audio cues.
Thank you.
But your entire argument hinges on the idea that stripping off makeup is an act of surrender.
I mean, isn't it?
I don't think so. I look at that raw, unmade-up face staring back in the mirror, and I don't see someone who's defeated. I see someone who is finally unbothered.
Unbothered enough to walk away.
Or unbothered enough to stop playing by the rules that required the makeup in the first place.
Oh, wait. Okay.
You're focusing on what she's taking off. I want to look at what is underneath, and more importantly, the historical context she is grafting herself onto. We need to rewind the video a bit.
Okay, where to?
To timestamp 0.55. Because this moment completely shatters the idea of a quiet, graceful retirement.
Timestamp 0.55. Okay, this is where your theory of a media revolution comes into play, right?
Yes. And it is arguably one of the most chilling uses of visual technology we've ever seen in pop culture.
The deepfake scene.
Right. The video employs sophisticated deepfake technology to seamlessly insert Taylor Swift's face into real, claustrophobic 1960s paparazzi footage of Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah, I noticed the sources specifically highlight the footage used, because it's not some glamorous red carpet.
Not at all. It is terrifying footage. It's a mob scene in Rome. Flashbulbs are exploding like strobe lights. Men are practically crushing her against a car, screaming right in her face.
It's hard to even watch.
The screen is physically suffocating. You, sitting at home watching it, you literally feel the oxygen leave the room. But the mechanism of using a deepfake here, that's what matters.
Right, because she didn't just hire actors.
Exactly. She didn't hire actors to recreate a vintage paparazzi mob. By grafting her actual face onto historical footage, she collapses time.
Oh, wow.
She is visually stating that the predatory mechanics of fame haven't evolved a single inch in 60 years.
It creates this intense, cognitive dissonance. You're looking at a 1960s aesthetic, but experiencing a very 2020s anxiety.
Yeah, and we really have to examine why Elizabeth Taylor was being mobbed in that specific historical moment.
Right, what was the context?
Well, in 1962, during the filming of Cleopatra, Elizabeth Taylor was arguably the most hated woman in the media.
Because of the Richard Burton scandal.
Yes, she was embroiled in this massive scandal with Burton. The paparazzi industry was practically industrialized just to hunt her down. The Vatican literally published an open letter condemning her as a vagabond.
The Vatican? That is insane. So she was the ultimate lightning rod for public morality. The culture loved to consume her while simultaneously judging her.
They absolutely crucified her for her immense wealth, her unapologetic romances, and her total refusal to show remorse. Sound familiar?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. So by inserting herself into that exact historical crucible, Taylor Swift is not announcing her retirement. She's weaponizing history to declare a media revolution.
So she's taking back the narrative by owning the villain status.
Exactly. She is saying, you want to cast me as the scandalous villain? Fine. I will wear the face of the ultimate Hollywood villain, and I won't apologize for it. She is done issuing PR statements. She is done trying to control the narrative to appease the public.
Okay, I see your point. When you frame it as an intentional adoption of the villain role, refusing to play the good girl anymore, the lyrics suddenly read as incredibly sarcastic rather than mournful.
Let's look at how she addresses the media directly in the text.
Yeah, the YouTube source isolates this perfectly. She sings, "Hollywood hates me, only as hot as your last hit."
It's a cynical, surgical dissection of the industry's fickleness.
Right. She fully acknowledges that their love is entirely conditional on her output. But then we get to, the geographical center of this villain era. She sings, "We hit the best booth at Crystal and Frank's. They saying I'm bad news, I just say thanks."
I mean, that couplet right there, that is the thesis statement of the entire project.
It really is. And just for context for you listening, places like Crystal and Frank's, these legendary, hyper-exclusive Hollywood dining rooms, They are fishbowls.
Oh, totally.
You don't go there to eat in private. You go there to be perceived. You go to project power.
It's the Colosseum of celebrity society.
Yes. So she walks into the ultimate fishbowl, demands the absolute best booth in the house, knowing full well the entire room is whispering about her latest scandal. They are literally calling her bad news.
And instead of hiding in the bathroom?
Or sneaking out the back alley, or issuing some notes app apology, she sits at the center of the room, smiles, and says, thanks. It is a complete subversion of the shame they expect her to feel.
She is straight up mocking the public's thirst for tragedy. She knows the media ecosystem survives by feeding on the narratives of lonely, tragic superstars. You know, failed romances, isolating wealth.
They want her to be a cautionary tale.
They do. So she gives them the exact performance they are demanding, but she coats it in so much sarcasm and luxury that it becomes an indictment of the audience watching her. She's giving them their drama, but wrapped up in white diamonds.
Which perfectly brings us to another fascinating lyric. All my white diamonds and lovers are forever in the papers, on the screen, in their minds.
Yeah.
When you first read that, it sounds like a boast, right? About wealth and romance. But with your framing, it's actually incredibly bleak.
It's an acknowledgement of commodification. To the public, her romantic partners and her expensive jewelry are basically indistinguishable.
They're just content.
Exactly. They are both just shiny objects to be consumed, photographed, debated, printed on front pages. She is hyper-aware that her private life is public property.
Which brings us to the bottleneck of our entire debate today. We have my theory. She is suffocating under the weight of this public property and is staging a funeral to escape it.
And we have my theory. She is embracing the scandal, putting on the armor, and going to war with the media.
And both of these massive theories hinge entirely on one specific frame in the video.
Yeah.
Timestamp 02.11.
The visual of the Krupp Diamond. The master key we promised you at the beginning of the dive.
Right. So for those of you listening who might not be deep into mid-century gemology, the Krupp Diamond, which was later literally renamed the Elizabeth Taylor Diamond, is legendary.
Impressive.
It is a flawless 33.19 carat diamond that Richard Burton purchased for her. And it wasn't just a ring, it was a monolith. It was so large it looked almost absurd on a human hand.
And Taylor notoriously wore it everywhere.
Everywhere. Not just to galas, but on sitcom appearances, on boats, to dinner. It was a permanent fixture.
And at 02.11 in the video, the camera completely isolates on Swift's hand.
Yeah.
And she is wearing an exact replica of the Krupp Diamond. But the sources, specifically the deep artistic analysis in Dimension 3 of the files, make it very clear that this diamond is not serving as a symbol of beauty or glamour.
No, it represents geological crushing weight.
Right. We have to look at the physical mechanics of a diamond. I mean, a diamond is literally just carbon that has been trapped deep within the earth and subjected to gigapascals of pressure.
It's just intense pressure.
And thousands of degrees of heat over billions of years. It is born from an impossibly hostile environment. The bigger the diamond, the more immense the pressure required to forge it.
So in this visual metaphor, the relentless public scrutiny, the suffocating paparazzi mobs, the open letters, the whispers at Crystal and Frank's, that is the geological pressure.
Exactly. And the diamond itself represents the monumental history-making success that comes out of that pressure. You know, breaking records, global adoration, the massive tours.
But there's a catch.
Right. The psychological message she's conveying is that this success must be bought with a piece of her own humanity. Every time she receives a diamond, every time she reaches a new echelon of fame, the weight of it becomes heavier to carry.
Oh, man. This completely recontextualizes the most vulnerable lyric in the entire song, where she sings, "I would trade the Cartier for someone to trust."
The contrast between Cartier and the Krupp is brilliant.
Let's unpack that for a second, because Cartier represents commercial, transactional luxury. Like, anyone with enough money can walk into a store and buy a Cartier watch. It's expensive, but it's common.
Right. It's accessible wealth.
But the Krupp Diamond is a historical artifact.
Yeah.
It carries the weight of a turbulent, violently public love affair. She is saying she would trade all the predictable transactional wealth in the world just to have one authentic human connection that isn't infected by the spotlight.
It forces us to ask the uncomfortable question.
Yeah.
What is the actual daily cost of having everything?
And she answers that question directly. It's the most haunting line in the project. She asks, what could you possibly get for the girl who has everything and nothing all at once, babe?
Everything and nothing all at once.
That is the philosophical core of the pain we are witnessing here. She has the history-making tours, she has the deep fake level cultural dominance, she has the 33-carat white diamonds, she has everything the world tells us we should want.
But the nothing is her autonomy. The nothing is the inability to have a private breakdown without it being intercut with historical funeral footage.
Exactly.
The nothing is the realization that she can never just be a person again. She will always be a symbol.
And that profound tension is why the Krupp Diamond is the perfect, terrifying symbol for this era. It catches all the light in the room, it demands the attention of every single person who looks at her, but the sheer physical and psychological density of wearing it every single day must be agonizing.
It is a stone with its own gravity.
Right. So we are back to our original stalemate. We are both staring at this massive, historically heavy diamond. Does its crushing weight prove your point or mine?
Well, this is where we hand the gavel over to you, listening to us dissect this.
Yeah, you have the evidence from the 2026 files now. You've heard my case. I believe the geological pressure has finally cracked the foundation. The weight of the Krupp diamond has simply become too much for a human being to bear.
And so she's done.
Right. The vanity mirror scene is her absolute surrender, and the makeup is coming off for the last time at her own meticulously planned funeral. She is choosing the nothing over the everything.
And you've heard the counter-narrative.
Yeah.
I argue that the pressure didn't crack her, it forged her into something impenetrable. That heavy diamond isn't an anchor dragging her down, it's the armor she is consciously choosing to put on.
Going into battle.
Yes, she is stepping into the historical shoes of the ultimate media villain, absorbing the suffocating hate of the paparazzi, sitting in the best booth at the restaurant, and weaponizing her own scandals.
It is a phenomenal, dense piece of art to pull apart. Just to recap the terrain we've covered today. We started in the harsh, clinical light of the bathroom mirror at timestamp 03.41, examining the psychological mechanics of an ego death and the literal funeral of a pop persona.
We then traveled back to 1962 Rome via timestamp 0.55, exploring how deepfake technology can collapse history, forcing us to realize that the predatory lenses of the paparazzi mob haven't changed in over half a century.
And we analyzed the power dynamics of Hollywood dining rooms, the sarcastic ownership of the villain narrative, and finally, we found ourselves trapped in the gravitational pull of the Krupp Diamond. The tragic realization that ultimate, dazzling success requires the sacrifice of private humanity.
What this deep dive truly reveals is that modern pop culture is never just entertainment. It is a real-time, high-stakes negotiation of power, privacy, and survival.
So true.
The sources we unpack today prove that if you look past the surface gloss of a 3-minute music video, you find a complex psychological thriller.
We really encourage you to go engage with the source material yourself. Watch the video, scrutinize those deepfake frames, read the lyrics without the music distracting you. Look into the wild, chaotic history of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton.
See if you can figure out the puzzle she's laid out. Do you think she is planning her escape or planning her next attack?
Yeah, let us know.
There are dozens of subtle visual cues and lyrical double meanings in those files that we didn't even have time to touch on today.
Yeah.
The architecture of this project is just vast.
It really is. But before we wrap up this analysis, we want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to mull over.
Something to keep you up at night.
Exactly. We've spent a lot of time today talking about the dual nature of heavy, dazzling jewelry. So the next time you are scrolling through your feed and you see a massive celebrity dripping in millions of dollars of diamonds flashing across your screen and catching all the light, ask yourself, are you looking at the ultimate triumphant symbol of human success? Or are you just looking at a very shiny, very expensive pair of handcuffs?